How do I get more leads?
How do I stand out in my market?
Is it unprofessional to talk about my kids on Instagram?
Should I have one account or two?
Do I really need a personal brand as a real estate agent?
We are the Modern Agent Marketing Girls. We are two agents turned marketing experts who believe you can become the go-to real estate girl in your market, all because you are you. I'm Chelsea Peterson, founder and CEO of Modern Agent Social Club.
And I'm Kayla Fox, Modern Agent's content creator. Let us be your guide as we talk about what it means to market your real estate business the modern way.
So refill your favorite beverage, open your notes app, and get ready to build a business and a brand you're obsessed with. Let's go.
Welcome back to another episode of the Marketing Girls podcast. It is just me today, Kayla, and we're going to be doing a couple of solo episodes here and there just to kind of mix it up. So today is going to be kind of a short and sweet episode, but super powerful. And yes, every time I start recording, my dog gets real anxious and he wants to be a part of the podcast. So he'll make occasional appearances. Anyway, today we are going to talk all about Instagram stories and how to actually use them and leverage them in a way that a modern marketer would, as opposed to an old school marketer. Now, I would argue that stories are probably your most powerful tool on Instagram. And I see people use them, and I see them trying to use them in ways that kind of peel back the curtain and show behind the scenes of their life. But again, there are just so many little things you can do, little changes you can make to your story strategy that can make a huge impact and really connect you with future buyers and sellers in your area. So let's dive in. First of all, let's talk about like the difference between old school story strategies versus modern story strategies, okay? So old school is all about posting kind of random moments from your day, showing behind the scenes of like your messy kitchen or like picking up your kids from school, all of those things. It's reposting content really without any context. And it's kind of just posting for the sake of posting, just to keep your stories active, which if you have no other story strategy, I would say just at least keep doing that, because keeping those active stories, it does promote conversations in your DMs, which is kind of the whole point of stories. But again, you can be more strategic and you can treat your Instagram story strategy like a modern marketer. So modern marketers, on the other hand, they are much more strategic and they're sharing behind the scenes of their life, but the behind the scenes that they are sharing is a little more curated and a little more intentional. Most of the time, they're not posting in real time because they are kind of checking the boxes to make sure that what they are posting is actually relevant and it will actually move the needle in their business and build trust with their community. Before we really dive into this, I feel like I need to address the elephant in the room, which is that stories don't go out to the masses like reels do, right? And so why are they so powerful? And like I've said, why would I even consider them to be some of the most powerful ways you can spend your time on Instagram? And I think here it's all about understanding that wider isn't always better, but sometimes it's going deeper. And stories give you that chance to go deep. So while reels and even some of your posts and other things that you do, like your engagement and all of that, can really be an outward marketing strategy that can attract new people, it's not building relationships. So sometimes those reels and whatnot, they attract more followers, but they don't build community. Your Instagram is what builds community. That's what we're all about here at this podcast and at Modern Agent Social Club. We want agents who can not only attract new followers, because a lot of people can attract new followers. That's not the hard part. The hard part is getting them to trust you, getting them to talk to you, getting them to engage with you, and eventually getting them to list with you and buy with you, right? So let's focus on the big picture here. Let's focus on the long-term goal and view our Instagram story strategy as well as most of our marketing strategies as the long game, right? So stories are a lot more about conversations. And what's really cool about them is you can engage with your followers through stories in a more private and intimate setting, as opposed to even like public comments on your content. So a lot of times that can kind of take that barrier of like maybe a little bit of intimidation or a little insecurity from your followers, not understanding like, I want to say something, but I don't want it to come across this way, or I don't want other people to see it, or I kind of feel stupid, so I'm just going to keep scrolling. When they come across your story content and they see something in there that is either like relatable or even educational, behind the scenes, just something that can get them to feel something, it's a much more safe space for them to engage with you, connect with you, even if it starts with something as simple as the heart button, or, like a reaction to your story. But again, those little things lead up to them building up the courage, which sounds silly, right? Because this is just like social media. But sometimes it does take a little bit of courage to respond to someone. I don't know about you, but like I've had people that I follow who I really like or I want to connect with, but then I start to like write them a message and I'm like, I just feel like really stupid or like almost feel like I'm fangirling too hard and like I need to like tone it down a little bit. And then sometimes I eventually just erase the whole thing and move on. It's a big deal when your people are responding to your stories and are engaging with you. And yes, I understand sometimes it's like the same people over and over again. And you can feel kind of like, yeah, okay, whatever. But if we are not taking the time to treat every piece of engagement and every DM as if they are people who are excited and eager to be at our table, why would anyone else come to the table, right? So we need to have that level of conviction that like every bit of engagement matters, and how we respond to it will determine the growth of our business. It'll determine our reputation in our communities. So take these things seriously. If people are taking the time to connect with you in your stories, just responding to something or liking something, or even like responding and voting in a poll or a quiz or whatever, take the time to respond to them and talk with them. And those little things can lead up to like bigger sales. And in fact, I'm like a perfect example of this because I sold real estate full time for really honestly only about 8 or 9 months until I started working for Modern Agent Social Club. But in that first year of business, I had 7 closings and 6 of them came from Instagram. And a couple of them were literally just like out of the blue DMs where they had found me through like location tags or things like that. But others, I had been talking to them. One in particular, they weren't planning on moving at all, but like life happened. And then she was like, well, I've already been talking to her. So she reached out. So they're just really powerful. And if you can't tell, I'm super passionate about stories and DMs and conversations. So take those seriously, even if they're repetitive, even if you feel like you're wasting your time, you are not. The next thing that I want you to remember is stories do not need to be super interesting. They just need to be consistent. So we've used this example before, but like when you think of like your favorite TV shows, the ones that like feel like the ones that feel like a warm hug, or the ones that feel like the only thing you'd want to watch when you're like sick, or if you just have like a lazy morning in bed. I don't get those very often. I don't know if you do, but like they sound nice. They sound dreamy. If you have a morning where you just have like a chill day and you just want to like cozy up with your favorite TV show and something to drink or whatever, you want those go-to shows that just feel good, right? And for me, that's like Friends, that's Gilmore Girls, even like Parks and Rec. It can just feel like I just love these characters. I love this show. I love everything about it, right? That's what your story should feel like. It is very easy to feel like being repetitive is being like redundant, that you're boring your audience. But the truth is, like, people want to know what to expect when they look at your stories. And yes, there's occasional like, oh, we're doing this weekend or something different happened, and that's all great. But like, for the most part, just that daily showing up is what really can move the needle and get people to want to look at your stories, to want to view you, and to want to engage with you. So simple things like we talk about doing like a good morning post, or like a picture of like your morning coffee next to your Kindle, those kind of things. It might feel kind of basic, but it also feels, think of it as like the opening credits to Friends, right? Seeing a little bit of that apartment, or seeing the outside of Central Perk, or someone, tossing like pennies into Phoebe's guitar case or whatever. Like those little moments just feel like, and it's almost subliminal, but they feel cozy and they feel like, okay, I'm in the right place, So starting your stories off in those ways, and then continuing to show up in a way that people expect. So whether you're in a familiar room all the time, like for myself, I would usually be like in my office or in the car pickup line when I'm picking up my kids. For other people, a lot of agents, it's a lot of like driving in your car, going to the next showing, stopping at the coffee shop, picking up a housewarming gift. Those repetitive things over and over again, those same images, the same like vibe in your stories is what really works with people and what gets them to want to connect, to want to show up. So there are two different story strategies that I see kind of like flying around, and some people are really opinionated that one is better than the other. I think there's a way that agents can use both strategies. So the first one is to basically share throughout your day, different moments of your day, kind of start and wrap up your stories, and not necessarily always post in real time, but basically like a good morning post, something that you're doing in the afternoon, something that you're doing in your 5 to 9 after work, or if you are showing houses or whatever, and then kind of like a clock out post. I personally love these because I feel like they're less intimidating. It feels like less of a chore and more of just I'm doing this. Let me snap a photo or a video and I'll show up. So I think agents can use that strategy, especially as agents are going out and about and they are, showing houses, meeting with clients, working in their office, all of those things. There's a lot of different scenes throughout the day that could be interesting for people to connect with and view, and people want to know what you're up to, what life is like as an agent in your town, right? And so those moments can be really great to share, and it kind of keeps you posting, keeps your stories active, keeps the conversations up. The other way that people are arguing that you should be showing up in stories is by basically posting all of your stories for the day, like whether it's like 4 to 6, all within about like a 20-minute time frame. And the idea here is that they're a lot easier to kind of click through and look at all at once. And then you would get more views versus showing up every other hour or every 2 hours or whatever throughout the day. That could kind of leave people, it's almost like having a bunch of commercial breaks, right? Like it almost like makes people be like lose interest in the story or in the show. So a lot of people have started now like, hey, I'm just going to post all of these all at once and get a big boom in engagement, get a bunch more views. And I've noticed it too, like I've played around with it and I'll get significantly more views on every story when I post them all at once and just a few at a time versus throughout the day. How can agents use this information to actually make it make sense for you and your strategy? Think about the kind of posts or the kind of stories that you really want and need like the most engagement and the most views on. The first thing that comes to mind for me is like listings, right? Like if you have a brand new listing and you want everyone to get out about it, like it just went live, you want everybody to see it, I would think about doing the strategy where you post 4 to 6 stories all at once. So it could be new listing coming soon, or on my way to go list the house or whatever, and show you, marking the listing as live in the MLS, and then showing the actual house and maybe linking the reel that goes with it that markets the house. So that would be a really great way just to encourage a lot of views, a lot of attention, a big buzz all at once, right? Where the other kind of strategy would be more along the lines of just wanting to show up, wanting to have a few connections throughout the day, wanting to mix a little bit of real estate with a little bit of personal, and just for the sake of staying active, staying top of mind, but not needing to make a big splash in your marketing that day. Posting throughout the day also is the one that I think builds the most community, because it's usually the one where you are showing up on Instagram more often throughout the day, so you are much more likely to respond to DMs, you're much more likely to engage with those who have voted in a poll or clicked on a link or whatever else. And so think of the all-day posting strategy as more of a community building strategy versus the all-at-once strategy is a little bit more along the lines of big boom, something's happening, there's an open house, there's a listing, this happened, and that's kind of the only thing that you want to share that day. The other thing that modern marketers do that I think is so genius is they pair their content for that day with their stories. And I'm not talking about just resharing it. I'm talking about pairing the two and putting a lot more strategy and purpose behind what you're sharing. So for instance, if you know that like that night you've scheduled a reel that talks all about the local things that are happening in your community and why your community is like the best place to live at during this time of year. Something that you could do is throughout that day, you could start kind of trickling in things about why you love your town. Or you could even say, share your story of like, this is how long I lived here, this is when I moved here, or this is why I've stayed here. You can also ask for people's opinions, which I personally think is the best strategy because everybody loves to give their opinion. So if you would take the time to put a little question box on your stories and say like, hey, I'm sharing all the reasons why I love our city tonight at this time. Tell me what I could have missed. Like, what do you love about this place? And I'll try to add it in. When people can have that opportunity to respond to you and share their opinion and their outlook, they're much more likely to actually view the reel that you post later or the post or the carousel that you post later because they feel like they were part of creating it. You know, I've heard it compared to before, like it's like those websites where you can like build your own shoes and they let you like design like the kind of soles that you want and the colors that you want and any other little details. And you basically see this whole shoe come to life. And at the end, it's like all you have to do is click add to cart. And the mentality is that people are much more likely to add that shoe to cart because they made the shoe. Like it screams them, right? And that's kind of the same idea with doing this story strategy. So take content that you know is coming up, whether it's that day, that week, or maybe even like a free guide that you're working on, whatever that is, an email that you're working on, but to allow your audience to impact that piece of content and to actually listen to them, actually engage with them, and include that in their content, it can be a really great community builder and a really great trust builder. So your stories are like the perfect place to also mix your business and your personal life, right? A little business and personal. And that's something that we're really passionate about at Modern Agent is we understand the power of a personal brand mixed with your real estate expertise and like behind the scenes of your business. And that when those two things come together, like your content is much more memorable. People are much more likely to click follow. They're much more likely to show up in your DMs. So that's the kind of content that we want to see. Your stories are such a great place to showcase your personal brand. And again, think about it. You don't have to post in real time, right? So as you are sitting down at your office to work for the day and you sit at your desk and you think like, oh, I'm going to snap a photo of like what I'm working on. You can stop and think, oh, wait, are there any elements I can add to this picture that would make sense for my brand? So like, it can be as simple as like moving your Diet Coke into the picture, moving your coffee into the picture, putting your bright pink purse next to your computer so people can see that splash of color that you're always incorporating in your content. There's lots of little tricks that you can do and little things that you can do to kind of curate your personal brand and make the way that you're showing up, even in a more raw and unfiltered platform like Instagram stories, you can still make it strategic and it can still feel on brand to you. So take that time to incorporate those little things. And guys, we understand you are like actually busy working real estate agents and the last thing that you are worried about all the time is always being on brand. We totally get that. Not every single piece of content that goes out there needs to be perfectly on brand and perfectly staged and curated. But if you have the opportunity to add an element or two that feels much more on brand, that feels much more like you and becomes more like makes your content more recognizable, if that's possible, then just take a quick minute to do it. If not, it's fine too. So we're just trying to help you be more mindful as you're posting and as you're sharing and showing up so that your content is as powerful and effective as you are. Because if you're taking the time to show up, if you're taking the time to post, like why not maximize your efforts? Why not get the most viewership and the most engagement and the most trust built at and with that one bit of effort, right? It's like all the birds in one stone. That's the goal here. So the truth is, stories are not a one-size-fits-all formula. There's going to be a lot of successful creators out there, a lot of successful real estate agents out there who use stories in different ways and engage with their audience in different ways, and it's going to work, okay? The thing that I would encourage you to do is to experiment a little bit and see what works for you. Like, what feels good to you, what feels doable, what doesn't feel near as intimidating, and what gets the best results. Like, what gets people showing up in your DMs, what sparks those conversations, and whatever that is for you, lean into that. At Modern Agent Social Club, we give our members story prompts every month that do this exact thing. And it is funny because I feel like every month we're telling them, just rinse and repeat. Use these over and over and over again. And some of them I know that people have had success with is like, if they're going to show a house in another neighborhood nearby, they'll say like, hey, I'm showing a house in this town today. Can anyone give me coffee shop recommendations? Again, people love to give their opinions, right? And then even things like, hey, I'm heading to closing, but I can't decide what to wear. Should I do this outfit or this outfit? That won't make sense for absolutely everybody because not everybody cares about fashion. But if that's something that you care about, like if you consider yourself fairly stylish and you like to incorporate that into your brand, like talk about it there. There's lots of ways that you can involve your audience and mix in a little bit of your brand menu in your stories that still reminds them that you are a real estate agent. One post that we had recently that we had a lot of members have a lot of success with was we did like a poll, and let me see if I can zoom in and I'll show it to you. This was around Christmas time, but we did a poll that was like, you can only get one gift under the tree. And I'll show you like what it looked like here on YouTube for those that are watching. But it was, you only get one gift under the tree, a brand new home, more equity than you thought, a house cleaning service, or a bedroom makeover. In the members group, people kept talking about how they were getting so much engagement from this and so much, they were starting so many conversations. Someone even said they got, I think, 2 new buyers from that very post. So even incorporating those polls and just asking, and do you see how that poll feels a lot less icky than, is anyone looking to buy or sell? Or like, I'm still selling real estate. You know what I mean? Like, it's much less of a billboard and much more of a conversation starter. And it's effective. People feel like, I can engage with that, right? This is exactly what I would want. Like, I know I'd want a bedroom makeover, or I know I would love to just get a brand new house, you know? So taking the time to incorporate little polls like that, and then obviously sharing throughout your day, really powerful. Guys, there is so much that I could share about stories. I feel like I could go on about this forever because I think they're underused. I think people forget the power of them, especially just the simple fact that when people log into Instagram, the people that they've engaged with, if their stories are active, they're showing up first. And I've seen so many people talk about how when they get on Instagram, they're much less likely to scroll and much more likely to go through their stories and to talk with their people there. So this is powerful. It's effective. There are a million different ways that you can use them. Don't try to do all of them. Like, just literally pick 1 or 2 that you're going to try this week and kind of see what you get with it. And as you kind of fine tune your craft, as you kind of see what's working for you, what's working for your audience, how people are responding with you, you can get going with that. I know at some point in time, we really want to talk more about like signature series and how you can even do like signature series content in your stories themselves. It's like stupid powerful how insane how insane it is. But I hope that if nothing else, gets you thinking, it gets you excited to show up on stories, and it gets you excited to engage with your followers, and that reminds you that like your efforts spent on stories is not a waste of time, and it's very much a needle mover in your business. So that is it for today. I hope that this was helpful for you, and I'm excited to see you next Tuesday for another episode of the Marketing Girls podcast. Bye.
I'm so glad we got to hang out today. If you're as sad as I am that our time is up, I've got good news. There are a couple of different ways we can keep the conversation going.
First, follow us on Instagram at Modern Agent Marketing Girls and introduce yourself in the DMs. Also, we always have a free Modern Agent resource available, so check out today's show notes for the goods.
And finally, hang out with other go-to real estate girls like you and finally create a marketing plan that works when you join Modern Agent Social Club. All the details are in today's notes.
XOXO, the Marketing Girls.